Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're joining us. It's my honor to present to you our next teacher, Bodhi, who has a deep love of the natural world. He's been playing his flute in the forest. He's been inspired by the sounds of nature. He's developed a unique style of improvisation within the healing music modality. And he has been adding many other instruments to his orchestra from different traditions. And most recently, he's created a sound healing temple in Mount Shasta, California. That must be amazing. And also, I've been listening to his music for many years when I've been on meditation retreats. He has more than 18 recordings and has twice been at the top of the New Age music charts. So I'm very grateful to welcome him here today. And I thought, since we're both flute players, maybe we could begin our interview, our conversation, and your teaching with a flute dialogue. How does that sound?
That's a great idea. Thank you,
All right.
Christine. It's great
All
to be
right.
here.
I'm playing a Native American flute in the key of G.
And I'll be playing a silver flute in the same key.
All right. This is fun. This is an original way to have a conversation. Well, I'm looking forward to when we can do that live. So you really make that silver flute sing. And I know today you're going to bring us some information on the topic of the 5 elements that you use and instruments that you use in sound healing and how sound healing has evolved in the last few years. It certainly has.
Indeed. Yeah, I've just came across this idea of looking at sound healing from the perspective of the 5 elementals. There's many ways to look at sound healing and to perceive it, as there's many traditions. And when I look at it from the 5 elements, many traditions use the 5 elements to balance our being. So if I look at the 5 elements as the ether in the center, the fire in the east, the water in the south, the earth in the west, and the air in the north, I like to start in the center with our own being, with our own body. We start in the center with our own voice. And the easiest way to do like an internal personal sound healing is to just like hum and feel the resonance of our own body. And that can evolve into playing with the vowels and also into any kind of chanting that you like, whether it's Om or Om Mani Padme Hum or some kind of Ikaro from the Amazon rainforest. But just a very simple way is just take, it all starts with the breath. It's always about the breath. So last year I talked about the silent Om, taking a breath in. And if we just add a hum to that, then we resonate our body. You can feel the resonance in your chest or in your throat, or if it's a high note, you'll feel it resonate in your upper chambers of your forehead and your facial cavities. So that's just the way I like to start with that element. And do you want me to just go through the elements one by one?
Well, I just wanted to hum along with you. That was really beautiful. Maybe we can just invite all the listeners to just do that practice as we do each element so that we
Sure.
can embody that sound. It feels really good.
So we take in the breath. First, we practice the silent Om. And we take a breath. And just feel where it resonates in your body, what part of your body it resonates. And the lower the pitch, the lower in the body it resonates. And that's a basic way to start awakening the body to the awareness of vibration. We're talking about vibrational healing. So we can start with our own inner vibrational healing. And then we move to the east with the fire. And I like to use the rattle. The rattle, the fire is a clearing, purification, and the rattle is a way to purify. And it's also one of the basic tools of entrainment that all sound healers talk about, where we so if people have a little salt shaker or a can filled with rocks or an egg or some kind of thing you can play with, you can shake it, and that always creates Christine has so many beautiful rattles. And one of my favorite sound healing experiences was a shaman from Siberia. She played the rattle for 45 minutes and the whole room just went into the zone. And I always remember that. It was one of the shamanic conferences that I used to play at. And it was so profoundly impactful. So I like to think of each instrument with an elemental quality. So when I do a sound healing experience, I like to balance all the elements. Helps to balance our being with the vibrational sounds. So we
Yes, I
move to the
love that you
south.
put that in the title about the balance and harmony because these are really challenging times on the planet as we're in a war, we've come through, pandemic, and I love the idea of balance and harmony. I mean, what a beautiful outcome.
Yeah, it's a good intention, and intention's a very big part of sound healing practice. Setting our intentions, being in a centered place as much as possible ourselves to transmit our personal vibration through the instruments. So the element of water, I chose the Tibetan bell because it's the waves that it creates. You can hear the wah 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 wah. So that's in a way like a built-in Bible beat to bring us into a delta or a theta state of deep peace and deep restfulness. And I like this sound here. So if people have a something, sometimes you can even find the lid of one of your favorite pots and gently strike it. It's all about gentleness, drawing out the sound, inviting the sound from each instrument and let it speak. That's how. So if you're very gentle with one of your pot lids, you're amazed at some of the tones you'll get from it. So in the middle of cooking, you can have a little mini sound session. So then I like to move over to the west. We're grounding with the drum. And again, we can take the entrainment quality. And when you do that for a while, you get into this deep shamanic place, which is the practice that Michael Harner taught pretty universally around the world and drawing from many traditions. So that's the grounding element, the element of earth. We have many different sounds on the drum. So that's something you can practice if you have something to tap on or even you can even tap on your chest. Bobby McFerrin style. Then I moved to the north with the wind, and the breath comes back full circle. We started with the breath, we complete with the breath, we balance with the wind instruments, and the breath starts to become melodic, and we start to come into a more melodic and creative expression with melody and harmony. And then after we've practiced all of those individually, we can weave them into a sound healing journey. It takes the listener on a voyage deep inside themselves to access our inner wisdom. And our body relaxes. And when our body relaxes, we just feel better.
Thank you. I love that many cultures that I've spent time with have different elements in different directions of the medicine wheel. Do you want to comment maybe on that? Where you came to the understanding of where you placed all the elements in your beautiful understanding of the sound?
Well, I first heard about the sacred circle when I was very young. My grandfather brought me a book called Seven Arrows, which was a man named Jaime Storm, who was a Sioux Indian. And he talked a lot about the sacred circle, the sacred ceremonial wheel, and the directions. And later on in my life, I spent a long time studying with a couple named Rainbow Hawk and Wind Eagle, who taught the council teachings, and I learned a lot about the directions and the power of aligning with the directions. And many different cultures have the directions, and they often use different colors for the different directions. I just somehow connected because I was so connected with Rainbow Hawk and Wind Eagle personally that I somehow adapted that feeling of the red in the east and the yellow in the south and the black in the west and the white in the north. And the center is the center, and it's also above and below if you want to go 7 directions. But I kept it to those 5, and I just intuited the instruments since I mostly come from the intuitive sound healing school and not really the scientific school, which is of another art form altogether, beautiful. And I know many friends in that genre, but it's a different approach to understanding how sound healing happens. So that's where I came from, I guess. And since then, I've studied the circle in many different occasions and different circumstances. And somehow it's just evolved into that for me with those instruments and this. And that's just a beginning. That's like a basic framework. And from then, you can feel into each instrument and what elemental it might carry or might be associated with. And it may shift sometimes. Some instruments may have elements of 2 elements.
Beautiful. Thank you. I never knew you had that book from an early age, that your future was tapping on the door of your consciousness.
It sure was. Yeah. And then later on, I took the name Starwater in a medicine circle years ago during a sweat lodge. And I did not know that at that time that story is in the Seven Arrows book because I hadn't read it all. I just skipped around and read various parts. And later on, it came to one chapter. It's all about star water, how the stars fell and created pools on the earth. It's a whole chapter about star water. I said, oh my God. It's a little bit almost spooky synchronistic.
How beautiful.
But I honor that tradition deeply, and I appreciate the learning I've gotten from that and how I can apply it to my own life.
So, how would you like to, and we have the short time together, perhaps take us into more of that weaving that you explained and helping with our harmony and balance? And then with the rest of the time, we can have a dialogue about some of the other things that you can bring to our education today.
Sure, I'd love to do a little journey. I have a little journey planned. If people want to get comfortable and relax.
And one thing I'm just going to jump in on is how important it is to be listening with a good audio source. And I have my noise canceling headphones on hand, but even earbuds. And I've been really finding this incredible difference in listening with a good sound system versus what we all get used to with our laptops or our iPads or our cell phones. So plug in and
Yeah,
listen
that's a
well.
good point. We always start with the silence.
Thank you. Now, I would like to ask a couple questions about some of the instruments we heard. What was that
Okay.
last long bamboo flute? The single tone that you played the harmonics with? Yeah.
Yeah, that's called the abuelo, the grandfather flute.
Wow.
It's an overtone flute. There's no holes in it. It's just one. One long piece of bamboo, and this was made by Omar La Rosa, Tito La Rosa's son. He's a fabulous instrument maker in Peru. And it's many cultures have an overtone flute. It's basically the root note allows it to be expressed through the overtone series. And I call them the whisper tones, or frequency flowers is my favorite name. They're like frequency flowers because they blossom out of one note and they go in a certain pattern. Every instrument has the same pattern of notes. And so on a flute like this, or you can do harmonics on a guitar, and any instrument that has the capability of producing overtones creates a natural harmonic resonance because it's built into nature. Like I said earlier, natural sounds are the most healing because they completely align with our nature of who we are as a human being that is part of the earth. We just are part of the fabric of everything that is created here. There's a similar vibrational pattern that we all share. So when you play the harmonic overtone series, it's very comforting in a natural kind of way.
I mean, I'm more familiar with that from overtone chanting and toning. So I really love that
Right.
awareness of how we love that, what comes from nature
Mm-hmm.
into that series. Okay, and then there was also, I don't know if it's leaves
Yeah.
that was a rattle. I mean, yeah, I'd like to know about that.
This is called a chacapa, and it's named after the plant. It's a chacapa plant. This particular one is bigger than usual. They use them in ceremony, and they use it like Muktananda used to use Shaktipat. They use it and they purify. It's called the shamanic broom. And so they use it to clear the space and to, maybe shake up some part of the body. I'm more gentle with it because Tita La Rosa made this one personally, and I want to keep it intact because it's a beautiful instrument. So I don't use it to bang things with. But it's a chacapa plant, and it's a space clearing and a kind of a rattle, like a leaf rattle,
Yeah.
and used for ceremonial purposes mostly. So when I do sonic ceremonies, it's part of the entrainment and the space clearing and the purification process.
And the last one I wanted to ask about was the long feather that
The long
captured the
feather.
air.
The long feather. Where's the long feather? Where'd he go? Flew away.
I think that's
Oh,
what
here
it
it
was.
is. Here it is. He flew away. Anyway, yeah, I make these instruments, the double feather. They're called a feather wand. And I I experimented with lots of different kinds of feathers. I used, owl feathers are very quiet. They're silent flyers, so you can't get much music out of an owl feather. It's pure silence because that's its own music. But then I tried the hawk feathers and the different kinds of feathers, and I found that these particular peacock feathers, their side feathers, are very strong and very powerful. And when I'm able to find two of them that go opposite directions, I'm able to fan it so it gets a double feather, and it creates kind of a real wind sound like a bird flying through. And people always love that when in the sound healing journey, when that one comes through the room, it's just always a very soothing sound. And again, the air element. So that's one of the instruments I make. I make a number of instruments myself, but more simple ones, the more simple ones.
That was a beautiful conversation. I learned so much. I think it's inspiring to think about making our own instruments, you know?
Yeah, you're really connected to them. You know, you really get connected to the instruments when you make them. And so I've made some pan flutes. I don't have any here, and I've made some. So I make some chikapas, but I make them out of bamboo. I call them bukapas, and those are beautiful too. And every time I make one, though, somebody wants it, and I end up selling it. So I don't have any right now. People like the bukapas. They last. You got to find something that will last. You know, like a lot of leaves either do two things. They either crumble when they're dry and they become dust, or they just don't dry. They just sort of become limp and fall apart. So far, only the chakapa and the bukapa, and sometimes the bay tree, the bay kappa, that can make a really nice one. It will last quite a while before it falls apart. So if you're just out in the forest and you find a broken bay limb that's fallen down from the wind, you break a little piece off and you got yourself a bay kappa. You have a shamanic instrument wherever you are in nature. You can whistle and play the bay kappa, and you have a sound journey right out there in the woods.
What is the energy of whistling? What is that aspect in your healing work?
You know, there's something primal about it. Again, it's made from our bodies, and it's like a flute. I call it my portable flute. Uh, and you know, it's in many traditions. It's used ceremonially to kind of, it just invokes this mystery quality. And of course, some cultures take it to a fine art, and people can whistle classical music, you know, when they practice it. I like to use it more like a bird call. So it evokes kind of a mysterious quality, a portal of the unknown.
Well, this has been really beautiful, and I have some of your dream questions here, but I feel like I want to ask something very basic, if it's okay. When you play your silver flute, which you're so well known for in your recordings that have been top winners on the charts, you know, your style of flute playing, I really wanted to know if you'd play a little bit for us on the silver flute, because you've been able to bridge a traditional instrument, right, from this sort of classical tradition into playing it in a healing way. And I don't think that must not have been such an easy thing to figure out.
Yeah, it was. It came to me very early that way. I studied jazz, classical, pop, East European music. I was in an East European dance band for a while, playing melodies and 13/8 and 9/8 and all the East European dances. So I've had a lot of different experiences. And then when I started really listening to the shakuhachi and the Indian flute, and I studied the classical Indian flute with Such Dev, and it just seems like every time, because I've been playing the silver flute since I was a teenager, ever since I heard Paul Horn play the silver flute in the Taj Mahal, that recording just, as soon as I heard that record, I actually, it was very soon after that, I went to my parents and said, I want to sell my trumpet and get a flute. And they said, you know, well, you know, anyway. So I did end up selling my trumpet and getting a, and I've just been playing it all kind of different ways. And then when the sound healing element came into my life, the flute is a natural part of that orchestra, so I naturally started experimenting with it. You can also really find the harmonic overtones with the flute very, very beautifully. Call them whisper tones or frequency flowers. I try to find unique tones and sounds and using the breath, so the breath is always flowing through and it awakens the breath in the listener.
So that it awakens the breath in the listener. I felt that.
That's a good line, isn't it?
I felt my breath changing. So when you said peace is just a breath away, can you explain that?
Peace is just a breath away. One conscious breath can change my mood pretty quickly. So there have been times when I've been feeling a bit anxious and concerned and worried and maybe even angry at times at what's going on in the world, and then I feel like the best way I can serve the world is to bring forth my own inner peace, and the breath is often the gateway to that. If I can just stop, often when we're upset or worried or angry, our breath gets short and contracted and tense. So if I can breathe in and remember the silent Om and maybe close my ears and hum, I can start to melt down all of the concerns that I have. Sometimes it takes longer than others depending on how deep I've gone down the rabbit hole. But it's just a breath away. At any point in time, anywhere, we have our bodies always with us. Wherever we go, there we are. So might as well make the best of it.
Thank you. And Bodhi, how do you feel that sound healing has been changing in the last couple of years? Or maybe just in this last year?
Well, everything's changing exponentially, as you noticed. And sound healing is just one aspect of it. It's an aspect of our lives that we pay attention to, that we're interested in, that we follow and track. So I've noticed it's pretty obvious to everybody it's gotten way popular. It's incredibly, and it's very very accessible, and it's kind of a low impact healing. There's not a lot of side effects like some healing modalities can have. And it's just become more woven into the fabric of our culture and the world culture. I'm following sound healers all around the world, and there's a thread that we have, and I play with a lot of different sound healers. I play in big sound healing orchestras, and I play for sound healing events, and I create sound healing events, and I've been teaching sound healing. I'm creating an online course, and I've been working with a lot of young people, and they're just innately drawn to sound healing. It's really very different than when I was a teenager, people weren't talking about going into meditation with a didgeridoo or a handpan or a Tibetan bowl or a crystal bowl ceremony. Those were pretty esoteric. And they were happening, of course. Many people were doing it, but the numbers have grown exponentially. And I feel like it's become more accepted, and it's become more appreciated in all kinds of circles of society, from the just regular people who live their lives and up to the sophisticated doctors and esoteric philosophers that think about things deeply and write about things. Vibrational awareness has really taken hold, and a lot of pioneers, Stephen Halpern, Don Campbell, Fabian from the school, the school in France, and way back to Tomatis and the connection between vibration and the ear and healing. All these pioneers started bringing that forward, and now it's like it's all blossomed and become part of everyday nomenclature, where you can talk about awareness of frequency as a way to deepen our awareness of our own being, that we have resonance, we are a living frequency flower. And all this has become normalized, which is fantastic. And so I'm just really excited to be part of this movement, and to be part of the Society of Sound Healers. And as you, I've learned a lot from you.
Well, thank you. I would say very much a unique aspect of the sound healing community is the camaraderie and balance and harmony that we have with one another, because
And
we're always
I
yeah.
love the different styles that we all have evolved. We all create our own remix of different instruments, and that's what's beautiful. Like the different orchestras that evolve.
Well, there's something beautiful you said earlier, that you don't play it hard. You evoke the sound from the instrument, and I'm going to really take that to how I play my instruments. We don't always talk about that, how we play and what
Yes.
goes into that expression that becomes healing.
Yeah. Think how you would approach a cat. You stroke the cat gently once it allows you. You have to wait for the cat to come to you. And so when the instrument comes to you, like this bowl that came to me from India when I was in MacLeod Ganj, Dharamsala, I bought a whole set of bowls, and and you're drawing the sound out like a qigong movement. You're drawing the sound out. You're inviting the instrument to speak. So whenever you're having a conversation with somebody, the more you listen and the gentler you are, the more they're going to come out and reveal their true self.
So now that we've experienced the 5 elementals in sound healing for balance and harmony. Do you have any closing thoughts for our listeners to bring this into their lives?
Yes. I invite people to just make an intention, set an intention to invite an instrument into your life. And sit with that, and then just notice instruments and feel their energy. And as you travel around or you even travel virtually on the internet and you see something and you feel something, you hear something, pay attention to how it feels, and there will come a moment when you will know that that instrument wants to join with you and have a conversation with you, because then it comes alive through your touch.
Thank you for that great teaching and for this beautiful session today. And we're really honored to have you bring us your teaching about nature and the elements and sound and the way to access peace with one conscious breath. And I really love that silent Om. I'm going to take that, I'm going to remember it by the wings of the owl. I just recently saw a great gray owl on my deck, and it flew up without me hearing a single sound. So you're right, the owl nation is definitely the silent Om.
Yeah, that's a beautiful awareness. Yes, indeed. So if people want to find me, they can go to soundscapeoasis.com. The soundscapeoasis.com.
Well, and all the great music you've recorded on Bandcamp. If you just go to Bodhi, and
Yeah.
before I met you, I had listened to your music and didn't know who it was. It's so fabulous. All your recordings are very healing. They really shifted my space when I was on a silent meditation. I had your flute playing, and it really made a difference. So I'd really recommend also, besides Soundscape Oasis, you can just look for Bodhi, Bodhi, and listen to
Bodhi
this
Flute is where you'll find it. Bodhi
Bodhi
Flute.
flute.
That's how you
Thank you.
find all my stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And let's,
there's a many Bodhis, and there's a lot of associations with the word Bodhi all over the world, but if you put in Bodhi Flute, then I show up.
okay, got it. Or Star Water.
No, that one's just a personal name.
I know I have those too. It's just so wonderful to have you in our summit, and thank you so much for all that you've brought us with this sound healing moment to restore harmony and balance. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Christine.